I've explored the spiral of silence theory and its impact upon political radicalization online. My hypothesis was that the theory's effects are potent and contribute to and create the ideal environment for online radicalization. In order to observe the theory's potential relevance as a facilitator for political radicalization, I analyzed a story submitted by an anonymous 13-year-old who was radicalized online and noted any instances where the spiral of silence theory, and by extension its assertions, impacted his story. To begin, we must first understand what the spiral of silence theory is. To aid our understanding, a hypothetical scenario will be utilized. Imagine that you're a passenger on a train and seated opposite to you are two gentlemen. They're having a lively discussion about whether or not pineapple belongs on pizza, and they both seem to passionately agree that it does. They turn to you and ask for your input. Well, does pineapple belong on pizza? Your actual opinion is that pineapple does not belong on pizza, but will you express your opinion? According to the spiral of silence theory, the likelihood of you expressing your true opinion is low. The reason being is that you perceive an atmosphere in which your opinion is in the minority, and by extension, you perceive a hostile conversational environment. On top of this, you're concerned with the social ramifications that come with expressing your actual opinion and the potential isolation that could result from revealing that you hold the minority view. Therefore, this theory holds that it would be likely that you'd refrain from expressing your actual opinion. Essentially, you'd be silenced. Or you would employ avoidance strategies so that you are able to answer the question in a roundabout way or deflect it. You may choose, for example, to change the subject, act as though you did not hear the question clearly, express uncertainty, water down your answer, or feign indifference in order to avoid the potential negative ramifications of voicing your minority view in that perceived hostile climate. Basically, you hate the idea of pineapple on pizza, but it's very likely that your fellow passengers will be none the wiser. Now that we've established an understanding as to what the spiral of silence theory is and what its assertions are, we will begin exploring the story of a 13-year-old boy who was radicalized online. Along the way, instances of the spiral of silence theory and its effects will be noted. This anonymous story is sourced from the website fastcompany.com, and it begins with the author switching schools and experiencing loneliness, desiring validation and social connection. And already we can see the spiral of silence theory come to play, as in relation to the theory, a major fear it notes and a potential undesired social consequence is isolation, something the author noted feeling. There was a desire for belonging, for community, and it was found on Reddit. The author came across Reddit while noticing a few classmates browsing the site one day. Curious, he asked his peers how to use this site, and they introduced him to the platform and assisted him in subscribing to various subreddits or internal communities within the site. And through this, he found the r/dank-memes subreddit. Many of the memes on this subreddit were politically colored and espoused rhetoric from the ultra-conservative or alt-right perspective. Curious, he googled many of the concepts the memes embodied, which led him into searching things like Sandy Hook actors, implying that the gruesome school shooting was faked in order to further a liberal anti-gun agenda. And through his continued googling of similar concepts and his time on the subreddit, he began to align with these views that greatly differed from those of his household, as that environment was liberal-leaning. So enraptured he became by the subreddit that he applied for a position as a moderator and was accepted. And here, the spiral of silence theory comes to play yet again, as being a part of this community, he, unlike within his home environment, was now within a space where he was within the majority view. He and fellow moderators who shared the same view formed what was almost a secret society where they discussed several alt-right concepts and beliefs freely amongst one another. As the spiral of silence theory suggests, when one is in the minority view, they are more reluctant to expand upon their views. The theory also suggests the opposite, that when one is within the majority, they feel comfortable opening up about their views. And that's exactly the case with this story. In this way, by providing the author with an environment where the conversational climate was non-hostile and in alignment with his views, an echo chamber was created which further pulled him down the rabbit hole of the alt-right. And in this way, the spiral of silence theory contributed to his radicalization in that he disliked the feeling of isolation, as the theory suggests, and thereby did not seek out environments where he'd likely be in the minority and would have his views challenged, and where he may have been possibly talked out of his radical beliefs or de-radicalized. Rather, Seeking inclusion and belonging, which the theory suggests is something people desire, he was attracted to these online communities where he was in the majority, and thus his views would be unchallenged, which would serve to further radicalize him. In essence, the spiral of silence theory facilitated his radicalization in that he opted for non-hostile conversational climates, and such climates steeped him further into radical belief. With how disheartening that story was, you may be left wondering if there is any way to prevent future similar occurrences. How do we prevent the spiral of silence theory from leading people into such extreme radicalization? Well, the answer is straightforward. We have to foster healthy democratic discourse where all voices are heard. We have to create non-hostile environments and be more welcoming to views that may be in the minority, and even views that may fall into extremes. That way, these susceptible individuals do not, in fear of isolation or in fear of social ramifications, turn to radical communities for belonging and fall further down the rabbit hole. In the case of the author, his awakening and de-radicalization occurred when he attended a Trump rally in which opposition groups were present. In such a scenario, multiple perspectives were given voice as opposed to the singular radical perspective that was voiced in the online community that the author was a part of. He was able to see the jarring difference between how confident his radicalized peers were online within spaces where everyone agreed with them, versus how disjointed they were in an atmosphere where their perspective wasn't the sole one being voiced. This observed weakness is what ultimately opened his eyes and brought him to the point of questioning his radical beliefs and then subsequent de-radicalization. But that wouldn't have been possible had he not been in a more open forum where multiple voices were given space. So, my suggestion is that we should all make a concerted effort to have environments where people of all persuasions can comfortably voice their opinion. Additionally, there is individual responsibility to be had. If a person is falling into extremes and only ever finds themselves in atmospheres where they are affirmed, they should take it upon themselves to seek out environments that foster a wider array of opinions. That way, true democratic discourse may be upheld and the appeal of turning to radical groups, and by extension, radicalization, and the negative effects of the spiral of silence theory may be culled.